Hello, my name is Levon Demergian. Just recently, Gideon and Brother James, who I am gracious for, had allowed me to speak in their server, in which I was allowed to bring awareness to the issue in Armenia and Artsakh. During my talk with them, they told me I should make a video about it in which they can teach my brothers and sisters of Christ about the situation. Back in February of this year, Azerbaijan blocked the Latin Corridor, the only road that connected Armenia to Artsakh, leaving 120,000 men, women, and children without food, medicine, fuel, and clean water. Eventually, Azerbaijan cut off the gas supply for about a week until the UN forced them to activate it. Azerbaijan also later cut off the internet connection to the region. Eventually, a full assault was started. In the beginning of October, Azeri forces started to push in with military equipment and drones that were given to them by both Israel and Turkey, along with some Russian military equipment they had left behind. This is equipment that Armenians couldn't fight against with Soviet-age technology, even some of them being from France and India. The Armenians of Artsakh were now given a choice to either leave to Armenia or join Azerbaijan and given an Azeri citizenship. To fully understand this issue, we need to go back in time thousands of years until we get to the present. Armenia is the first country to adopt Christianity in the year 301 AD. This happened because Saint Gregory the Illuminator convinced Tiridates III, the king of Armenia, to convert to Christianity. Over time, Armenia created hundreds of churches, even creating the city of 1001 churches, or the city of 40 gates, something that used to look like this, which is now turned into this. Armenia later changed several times, changing from their own kingdom to joining other empires, such as the Roman and Persian Empire. A lot of this land was in what is now known as modern eastern Turkey and the country of Azerbaijan, which used to be part of Iran as well. Eventually, Armenia became part of the Ottoman Empire, which is now modern-day Turkey. Early Ottoman expansion. The Ottoman Empire began expanding into Anatolia and neighboring regions during the late 13th and 14th centuries. As part of this expansion, parts of historical Armenia came under Ottoman control. The reasons for this are diplomacy and alliances. In some cases, Armenian principals and rulers formed alliances with the Ottoman Empire as a means of protection against other regional powers. The Ottomans often welcomed such alliances to strengthen their hold on the territory. Military conquest. The Ottoman Empire gradually expanded its territory through military conquest. They conquered eastern Armenia in the early 16th century, leading to incorporation of more Armenian-populated regions into the Ottoman realm. Janissaries. The Ottoman employed the system of janissaries, which involved forcibly recruiting Christian boys from various regions, including Armenia, and training them as elite soldiers and administrators in their service of the Ottoman state. This practice further integrated Armenians into the Ottoman Empire. Soon, the party as the Young Turks came to power in the Ottoman Empire, in which they did by leading a rebellion against the current leader, Sultan Abdülhamid I, in 1908. In 1913, the current Prime Minister Şevket Pasha was assassinated, and later on, three party leaders came to the rising, which are known as the Three Pashas. These three Pashas were Enver, Talat, and Cemal. The Three Pashas then started one of the largest atrocities committed to the Armenians, the Armenian Genocide. The current party, called the CUP, thought the Armenians were an existential threat to the Ottoman Empire. There are other reasons being that the Ottoman Empire was a major Muslim country and that Armenians were still Christians. In 1915, a mass deportation was started by the government, quote-unquote, where 1.5 million Armenians out of 2.5 million population were killed, died from exhaustion while being deported, died from dehydration or starvation, along with other reasons. Keep in mind, the Ottoman Empire was technically at war in World War I with Germany and Austria-Hungary. The Ottoman Empire was threatened by the Allied powers that they would face consequences for the genocide, but outright denied it to the Allies. Even an ambassador from the US, Ambassador Henry Morgenthau, visited and helped get funding for the Armenians. After the war, the party was now being held at trial, where the three pashas, along with 400 other military personnel, were ultimately held guilty. However, the three pashas were able to escape. Talat, the highest-ranking individual, fled to Berlin. Talat was later found in Berlin and was assassinated by Soghomon Talerian in Operation Nemesis. Talerian was not found guilty of any crime and later died of a stroke in San Francisco. Meanwhile, the remaining individuals later joined the Turkish Nationalist Party, and from 1921 to 1923, the party committed to killing all Armenians, along with the Greek and Russian army, which were both in the region at the time helping refugees. The party was led by the new leader, Mustafa Ataturk, which also became the leader of Turkey after the Ottoman Empire collapsed. Because they had just become a new country, everything was practically swept under the rug, and for the last 100 years, Turkey has actively denied the Armenian genocide, taught their students to deny it, and even denies the amount of deaths. This later would help start the first Nagorno-Karabakh War. From 1922 to 1991, Armenia was part of the USSR, and it took until 1936 after the Russo-Persian War for Azerbaijan to join the USSR. Later on, the region of Nagorno-Karabakh, or Artsakh by the Armenians, was given away to Azerbaijan in hopes of better relations with Turkey. However, just to clarify, this land was given to Azerbaijan in 1921 by Joseph Stalin. The countries simply weren't their own until 1936, when the Transcaucasia Union was turned into 3 separate areas, or now 3 separate countries: Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. While still under Soviet control, you could freely stay in Nagorno-Karabakh because the area was still in the same nation. This area still had a large Armenian population, even though it was under Azerbaijan territory, where it also held the first Armenian school, along with several churches and other historical buildings. In 1988, during the collapse of USSR, Armenia had voted to go to war with Azerbaijan over the land. The war lasted from 1988 until 1994, with Armenia taking over a majority of the land. Not only did Azerbaijan have 350 Turkish officers, but also had 200 Grey Wolves, a nationalist group which still exists today and was just a couple months ago banned by the country of France. A total of around 12,000 soldiers died on the Azer side, while around 6,000 died on the Armenian side. This started another ethnic cleansing, this time by Azerbaijan, with the Sugamet and Baku programs. Armenia had also started an ethnic cleansing known as the Khojaly massacre, where about 613 civilians were killed. In 2008, a small clash happened with a couple deaths on both sides. In 2010, another small clash happened with a few deaths on both sides. In 2016, 350 soldiers and civilians were killed on both sides. In 2020, we finally get to the modern-day issue, the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War. Azerbaijan broke the ceasefire several times and started the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War, also known as the 44-Day War, until a new ceasefire was put in place on October 17, 2020. During this time, Azeris were also taught to hate Armenians in their classwork and by their teachers. And I will play a video about this.
Как называется наша родина?
Азербайджан!
Правильно. А вы знаете, кто враги Азербайджана? Кто наши враги?
Армяне!
Армяне. Почему они наши враги? Кто мне скажет?
Они наших людей убивали.
Ага, еще кто что может сказать? Еще что они сделали?
Они убили всех наших солдатов.
Ага, хорошо. Давайте посмотрим на нашу карту. 20% земель Азербайджана оккупированы армянами. Такие районы, как Кельбеджер, Ахдам, Кубатлы, Шуша, Физули. Один из таких районов также является Ходжалы.
Еще они там захватили одно место, где есть ресурсы всякие, золото.
Правильно, Юнис. Итак, в ночь 20...
Not only does Azerbaijan teach their children to hate Armenia, they also teach their children that their country is an ancient land and that several foods and cultural things that originated from their neighbors, Armenia, Georgia, Iran, Greece, and even Turkey, are all their creations. They made a park in the capital of captured military equipment, trophies of soldiers' helmets, and even stereotypical wax figures of soldiers where there are pictures of children choking them. Some of the children were dressed in Turkish military uniforms, sitting on the back of an Azeri truck, pretending to hold rifles. Those children are being taught to hate their enemies and dress as soldiers. Their country no longer raises children, but raises soldiers ready to kill the enemy as if they were nothing but subhuman. Meanwhile, the children of Artsakh are forced to leave their homes, belongings, and their friends behind. I thank you, brothers and sisters, for letting me speak. I do not wish for you to fight for me or for the others, and I do not wish for you to devote your life to them. I thank God for helping me realize that hating my enemy is not the right thing to do, and that I need to understand them, as you should. I wish that you are able to bring awareness to my brothers and sisters in Armenia and to pray for them as well.